Well, good evening, Pradesh. I'm Joko McKenna, from California in the United States. It's nice to meet you, I guess, or you see me. Maybe you've watched my videos, I'm not sure. Hopefully you've already had a chance to review the PowerPoint and have seen some of my corrections. And let me start by saying that I don't know you, but I think I know what kind of student you are, in that you probably get 8s or 9s in your reading and listening, if I'm not mistaken, and it's in the writing that you're having the problem. Well, you're like one of many, many, many other people. And to a certain extent, I think I've already identified some of your problems. It's that you've been following the rules. Rules that were developed to help people who are naturally of an English level of about a 5, and 5.5. 5.5 is like average worldwide. And these people need to get to a 7. And so, people like IELTS Liz and IELTS Advantage and Simon and all of these gurus, and Pauline Cullen, even, who you mentioned, give people a crutch, a way to get them to one place. Now, again, I don't want to put you into a category too quickly, because you've got some other issues as well. What do we got tonight? It's advantages and disadvantages essay. In the general attaining type, there is no need to express any type of opinion as to which is more. Now, this is feedback. Your essay was about how the internet has taught people incorrectly how to do things. And you're guessing you learned to write your IELTS essays from the internet and not from a class or a teacher. I don't know, but that's what I'm guessing. So you're an example of the thing that you put in your essay. And this is supposed to be professional feedback, right? You're paying me to do this. And so, I'm going to be very serious about it. And what I would normally do with a client is I would use a random number generator to pick a task 2 essay. Although I suppose with general training, since yours are a little bit different, it's better we just picked one. And I chose the advantages, disadvantages, because I think it's the easiest. And no opinion is required. However, unsupported statements don't impress anyone, and they don't move what you have to do forward, and you're not trying to convince anyone of something. What do I mean by this? We'll see. So what do you do in this question? Well, you need to describe the advantages. I think you should describe more than one. And why it is an advantage. Like, for example, let's take something different than what you wrote, which was, an advantage. When I do my brainstorming, I'll show you. Yeah, I need to explain why. I'm ahead of myself here. Now, another thing that a lot of people need to work on, and I would make this true in your case, is that you have to thoroughly analyze the question like a lawyer would analyze a law, and looking at every word in it, and every word has meaning, or a priest would look at some holy text and say every single word, because you missed a couple of words in the question. We need to know exactly who, what, where, when we're talking about. And here's our question. People use, okay? Let's take a look. Zoom. Why is it showing me twice? Oh. Okay. There's a little yellow line there. Are there any qualifiers here? What do I mean by a qualifier? Oh, light just dimmed. Well, where's my pointer? Shoo, shoo, shoo. Yes. 2. All right. If you use the internet as their main educational resource. Now, Does that mean the only resource that they use? No. Main means the primary one. And actually, it's kind of hard to think of anybody who doesn't these days. Even if you're going to the library, you go on JSTOR. And there's so many. Anyway, last time I haven't been in university since the 90s, but seems like nowadays. Anyway, off point here. And however, even though that is the case, what does the question say? What is the other qualifier? Shoo. Wait, why is it advancing without me? Many people. Now this is my brainstorming. Okay, so for those people who use the internet as the main source, okay, which is pretty much everyone, what are the advantages and disadvantages? They're not necessarily two different groups of people. Okay, they're not two sides here. And I want to think about, okay, what are the advantages? Well, quick access. You can get books that otherwise would take months to get. If you're using it outside of an educational system, there's price. You can watch videos and such for free. You can read so much for free. You can specialize in particular things. And you get to stay home while doing it. Disadvantages. You can learn things, but you can't communicate with them and discuss them like you would, say, in a classroom. That's the other part of this question, is what are the advantages compared, not to the disadvantages, but the advantages of it not being your main resource? Okay. What are some of the disadvantages as compared to old style, look it up in books and teachers' education? Okay. We're back to this again. Oh, yes. Here we go. Your opening paragraph. Oh, okay. So,
since the internet has been embedded in our life, most of the people use it as their main educational resource. This practice has some advantages such as real-time learning, but it also has some pitfalls such as fake and incomplete study material.
I don't know if you can hear that. This microphone isn't very good far away. And I don't remember if I said, hey, you know what, though? That's the cool thing about this new software I've got. I can pause it. Oh, what's this? Devils. I don't know if I'm getting sound or not. Or if you're getting sound. Well, again, this is one of the first times I've used this software, so here we are. So, introduction.
Since the internet has been embedded in our life, most of the people use it as their main educational resource.
Okay.
Material.
Don't see the notes yet. Alright, so your introduction is very typical of someone who's writing 6s and 6.5s. And I don't know how good your English is yet, but you're trying to use words that don't fit. Okay. For example, embedded. Now, embedded, a thing can be embedded. Okay. And maybe you're trying to use it metaphorically, but it looks incorrect. It's amateurish. And a nail can get embedded in your tire. Or reporters can be embedded into a war situation. That's really the only two usages of it. And then the word since. Now, since can mean two things as well. I'm sure you know. It can mean from the time that, in the past, since, I've been here since this morning. Or it can mean because of. Okay. And I don't know what you mean here. Since as the internet has been embedded in our lives, or is it from the time at which the internet has been embedded in our lives? All right. Yeah, well, that's about 20 years. Well, 30 years, maybe? 20 years. And embedded is wrong. You can't use it that way. And I don't know if has been embedded is the present perfect in a passive voice. You know, it is embedded, it was embedded, it has been embedded. Or it's the present perfect to be using the adjective embedded. Okay. How long has it been that way? Oh, it has been embedded like that for a long time. Not that the meaning is that much different. Anyway, here's your first mistake with reading the question. It says many people in the question, and here you say most. And you say most of the people. Please drop this habit. It's very, very common amongst students all over the world, apparently. My Myanmar students have the same problem. It's not most of the people, unless you're talking about a group of people who we all understand who they are. Not everyone. There's no the people. Okay, so most of the people in my country, most of the people of my generation, most of the people around here, but not people as in everyone. Then you don't use the. You just say most people. Remember that one. Most people use it as their main educational resource. Now, when people overdo it in the first paragraph and they take every word out of the sentence, it's also over there, and they replace it with a different word, and it's never quite the same, and that's very, you're not doing that. But you can't take as their main educational resource the whole first half of this sentence, pointer, here, the whole second half of this sentence, and repeat it. You're showing that you don't know any other way to say it. And even if you just rearrange the words, that's fine. Okay, so most people use it as their primary resource for education. Even that's fine. And same thing here. Practice. Practice. Huh? This tendency. This, how about just this, has some advantages, such as real-time learning. What does that mean? Oh, my notes. Paraphrase. Real-time. It takes a hyphen. And usually it means like something on television when something happens as fast as you are watching it, right? It's like, I'm not sure what it means, but you mention it several times in the essay and you never explain it. Real-time learning and pitfalls. Wait a minute. Well, when isn't learning real-time? Well, I guess you listen to it at a lecture and then you go home and you think about it and you learn it. I don't know. A pitfall is an unexpected hazard. Like they have those here in Yangon. Walking down the sidewalk and there's a hole in the sidewalk. Moving on. Okay, never mind. Copywritten materials, right? Or is it... Ah! Pause. Spilt my beer. Okay, here we are back to the show. I found the audio here.
People share study materials on the internet without any cost for their publicity, and there is no option to check the authenticity of such material. In most cases, a major portion of such material is either fake or incomplete, which makes the online education as a non-reliable source of study. The YouTube is full of such videos which are not authentic and have vague and partial knowledge of the topic. People who follow such tips and advice often find themselves on the wrong side when they apply such knowledge in practical life.
Okay, now, it took me to spill the beer, and, no, not that button. It took that to happen for me to realize what you meant by this sentence here. Okay? Without any cost for their publicity, and there is no option to check. Okay, so, now, the people that you're talking about are sharing like what I'm doing here. Did this make you think of it? Are you thinking of me? Right? For my own publicity? Sharing things on the internet without any cost for their publicity. I see. Okay. I thought you meant people who were sharing books and stuff initially. And I thought you got publicity confused with published or no option to check the authenticity of such material. Okay, well, people. I think you're probably referring to your IELTS experience, perhaps. Well, anyway, I'm paused. I didn't record any of that. These should be 2 sentences, really. That's why I have the blue there. It's a really long sentence. And there is no option. Nope, I don't get it. To check the authenticity of such material. You use this word authenticity quite often when I believe what you really mean to be saying is veracity, not authentic. Authentic means real as in not fake, and you mean real as in the correct knowledge. All right? Okay. In most cases, a major problem of such material. Most and major are kind of synonyms, so it's the okay. And such material. Okay, the material that people, we don't know who these people are, were sharing. We don't know the authenticity of such material. In most cases, a major portion of such material. Now, here it stands out, of course, because of the line pages here. But, such, too much, such material is fake or incomplete. All right, so now that makes the online education, just online education, as which makes online education you don't need as in there, not non-reliable. The word is unreliable. And then what are the effects of that? Note, you're trying to show that it's a disadvantage. This could just be an inconvenience. Consequently, when they go to take their IELTS test, they won't get what they need. Or they will be relying on information that they believed was true, but was not. Okay. The YouTube. No, just YouTube. Is full of such videos which are not authentic. Well, once again, you're repeating the word authentic, and again, you've got it incorrect. Authentic means the actual first copy of something. So it could be completely authentic and totally wrong. Authentically what? The YouTube. Now, where if the video is full of vague or partial knowledge of that topic. Okay, so I was looking for an example of a non-reliable or a fake story, and I came up with this one not too long ago. And the reason I'm bringing it up here is because you have no examples in this paragraph. In fact, you have a lack of examples throughout. You talk about such material. Such material. Like what? Just name one. Can you give an example of how an online education is not reliable? Okay? If there's full of such videos, surely you could think of one. All right. And once again, authentically what? Okay. Let me move myself here, over to here, or up here. Okay. People who follow such tips and advice. Oh, yeah. Such videos. such tips, such material, such. Now, such is useful in having a little bit of a negative connotation, and you don't like this, so at least you're using it right, but you're using it too much. Tips and advice. Is that education? And then this is really vague. How often find themselves on the wrong side when they apply such knowledge in practical life. Now, here you're showing it's a reason why it's a disadvantage, is you are relating it to, no, you're not, you're sort of, it's vague, some aspect of real life where you could talk about how one of these unauthentic, non-reliable things, it's like, why are they not reliable? Well, because they're not reliable. Because they were put out for their own publicity. So it wasn't clear from the start. Tips and tricks. You should go to the IELTS tips and tricks page. I think that's where your friend recommended me from you. Or for you. Okay. The name of the next paragraph, and we have the conclusion in it as well, is don't use the same idea to support both advantages and disadvantages. Oops. Okay. The whole thing. Do I have a reading for this? I believe I do. I like to hear it read because then I don't have to read it. And moreover, you can hear it. It's good for listening and speaking practice as well. Let's see. Why is there a red thing around there? I don't know what that means. I don't know. Okay. Okay. The internet has a brightest side. Also, a brightest side also, where verified, put also before the verb. It doesn't have. It just sounds better there. That's where it's supposed to go. Where verified social media accounts share information on a real-time basis. Verified by who? What is this real-time basis? It's good that you have good vocabulary, but if you don't show that you understand what it means, then you don't get credit for it. Because this just could be a word that you heard. And verified. Okay. Pauline Cullen. Why didn't I? Oh, yeah. Information. And then there's a lack of transition between ideas here. Verified social media's accounts share information on a real-time basis. One good example of this is Pauline Cullen. Or, you just jump into it. You need a transition there. She's a famous I guess so. English is always capitalized. Teacher, comma, who shares lessons with their students on, not in. Okay. Relative clauses. They're either defining, meaning they're very important about who you're talking about. I mean, it's like, that's why you're talking about them. Or they're just other information. Non-defining. All right, so why do we care about Pauline Cullen? Because she's a teacher. Who shares lessons with her students on Facebook? That's why we're talking about her. So it is a defining relative clause. It connects her. If we just said, Pauline Cullen is a famous English teacher whose parents migrated from Poland in the 1930s, and she shares lessons. That's not information about what we're talking about. So it's non-defining. Okay, on Facebook, where she also, once again, we don't need the comma there, where she also receives questions from students and answers online. Okay, I would put the answers with the receives, since they're talking about the same thing. So, where she receives and answers questions online. And, of course, they're from students. Such, and it comes back. Such online study sessions benefit a large number of students globally. Who, what? Defining, yes, not just, the ones who need that advice, who need and experts, apostrophe S, or you can say expert is an adjective and say who need expert advice. To conclude, inauthentic and half information, not a collocation that I'm aware of, on the internet is one of the darkest sides. Darkest sides. Okay, again, you've not shown that in the essay, that it's one of the darkest sides. It sounds more like, if you're a fool enough to believe it, well then, too bad. But darkest sides, that's a bit strong, of the online education, no the. On the other hand, it's a bit late in the essay to be pitching in another hand. I mean, it's not grammatically incorrect, but usually you use that to start off a longer point, not a short one. Global access and real-time knowledge. Sharing on the internet has become the boon. A boon. There's many boons, so a boon for many learners. Ooh, how? How did it become a boon? And where is the contrasting to not people who don't get the majority of their information off the internet, or you never explain how Pauline Collins. You just say it's a benefit for them. Why? Well, because they live in rural Nepal where they can't get to a teacher, or they live in South Africa, or I don't know. I'm sure I've had several colleagues from South Africa. Oh wait, did I go over all the questions? Yeah, darkest. Oh yeah, and it's not an advice; it's advice. Okay, so what is this real-time knowledge business? I don't know. It's never explained. So here's all of that at once. Again, I think I went over the color coding, right? Red, task response. How well do you understand and answer the question? Because you have to understand the question to answer it. Yellow is vocabulary. Green is grammar. Blue are connectors and flow. A little mix of everything in there, really. And, oh, you know what I forgot to do because it was getting late? I didn't go over, well, that's my new program. 30 minutes. Jesus Christ. Oh, I can cut this down. That's right. Huh. All right. Escape. Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay, so I see some issues that are very typical, like the way you started the essay with that sentence that really didn't have anything to do with the rest of this essay. Let's go back and look at it. Or can I? Yeah, okay. Since the internet has become embedded in our lives. Huh? Okay, most of the people. And then you change the question, but not with synonyms, with different meanings. Okay, that's pretty typical of IELTS students, and so you should know that weakness. Structurally, you're using words like pitfalls that you've been taught are good to use in replacement for disadvantage, but really they mean something else. I would not be so formulaic, following just a set pattern for your introduction. It's safe. It's safe to get you a 7. But here's the safe to 7 problem. I'm going to go back full screen for this, and then I'm going to wrap it up. No band scores tonight. Think about safe for 7. What I mean by that is following structures and using phrases and techniques that are prescribed by various people that you've seen online is great for someone who's trying to get a 7 and has no chance at it. I don't know you, but I'm guessing you live in an English-speaking country. It's probably just the writing that's the problem. So you can't follow those instructions that are meant for Vietnamese and Myanmar people who who struggle to understand what the past tense is. So, don't do it. Okay? I'm going to free you from these structures that limit you to some extent. Well, I don't know that yet. We'll see if I can, if my initial summation is right. But that introduction was not very good. You didn't spend the time to analyze the question. And I think because you knew what you had to write, right? Following these structures. Not as bad as some, but so your weaknesses are task response at this point and lexical resource, in that you're trying to use a few words for their own publicity. How about, and then and pronouns. Yeah, a lot of points we didn't know who are they? Who are the people? You'll have to tell me more about yourself in terms of like your educational background and your age and your profession, and all of these things will help me understand what you need to do next. Talk to you soon. How do I stop? Jane, stop this crazy thing!